Morning begins the same way for millions of people. Alarms ring, screens light up, calendars fill with reminders that were scheduled days ago. Before the day has even properly started, attention is already divided between messages, obligations, and the quiet pressure of being late for something. Coffee is poured quickly. News is skimmed in fragments. Then the motion begins. Traffic moves like a long mechanical river, carrying workers toward offices, shops, hospitals, classrooms, construction sites. Everywhere you look, people are in motion, each one focused on the next small task waiting for them. Inside buildings, the rhythm continues. Meetings follow other meetings. Emails demand replies before the previous conversation has even finished. Phones buzz on desks, in pockets, inside bags that never fully close. Each notification feels urgent in the moment, as if the entire structure of the day might collapse if it goes unanswered. People move quickly between responsibilities, adjusting plans, solving small problems, reacting to whatever appears in front of them. It looks like productivity. It feels like participation. Everyone seems to be doing something important. But if you step back for a moment, a quieter pattern begins to appear behind the movement. Those who seem the busiest rarely decide the direction of things. They carry out plans, implement strategies, and keep systems running smoothly. Their effort is real, and without it the machinery would stop. Yet the rules that guide their work usually arrive already written. Policies are announced. Objectives are defined. Deadlines appear on schedules that someone else designed. Meanwhile, the people who shape those rules often seem strangely calm by comparison. They are not rushing between every small decision. Their time moves differently. And this creates a quiet question that rarely gets asked during a busy day. If everyone is working so hard, why does control keep drifting upward instead of spreading outward? Long before smartphones, office towers, or crowded highways existed, the same pattern had already begun to reveal itself. Centuries ago, in the shifting political landscape of Renaissance Italy, cities rose and fell through alliances, betrayals, and sudden changes of loyalty. Power rarely stayed stable for long. Leaders were replaced, governments reorganized, and entire regions changed direction almost overnight. In this atmosphere of constant uncertainty, a few observers began watching political life more carefully than most. One of them was Niccolò Machiavelli. Machiavelli worked inside the government of Florence, which meant he spent years close to negotiations, conflicts, and the quiet conversations where real decisions were made. From that position he noticed something that ordinary citizens rarely had time to see. The people who appeared busiest in public life were often not the ones shaping the final outcomes. Couriers rushed through streets carrying messages. Officials scrambled to manage daily problems. Advisors debated endlessly about immediate crises. Yet behind this visible activity, a smaller group moved far more slowly and carefully. These individuals paid attention to patterns rather than moments. Instead of reacting to every new event, they watched how alliances formed, how loyalties shifted, and how institutions protected themselves over time. They studied incentives, personalities, and weaknesses. Their influence did not come from constant motion. It came from patience. Machiavelli did not present this observation as a moral lesson or a complaint about human nature. He described it almost like a natural law of political life. Power, he noticed, tends to gather where there is enough distance to think strategically. Those who are absorbed by immediate responsibilities rarely have the time to step back and examine the larger structure around them. Over time, that difference quietly shapes everything. One group spends its energy responding to events. The other slowly learns how to design them. And once that pattern begins, it often continues without most people even realizing it exists. In the modern world, participation is everywhere. People are encouraged to share opinions, respond to headlines, vote in polls, attend meetings, post reactions, and join endless conversations that stretch across screens and offices alike. At almost any moment of the day, someone somewhere is discussing an issue, debating a decision, or reacting to a piece of news. From the outside, it gives the impression of a society constantly shaping its own direction. And in many ways, it truly feels that way. A person might spend hours each week following political developments, reading articles, leaving comments, or discussing events with friends. At work, employees attend strategy meetings, contribute ideas, and participate in decisions about projects or policies. Online platforms amplify this sense of involvement even further, turning every update into an opportunity to react instantly. The entire system seems designed to keep people engaged, attentive, and active. But activity and influence are not always the same thing. If you slow down and watch how many major decisions actually unfold, a quieter structure begins to appear behind the visible conversation. The most important discussions often take place long before the public ever hears about them. Agreements are negotiated privately. Plans are drafted in closed rooms. By the time a proposal reaches a public stage, much of its direction has already been determined. What follows afterward is usually a wave of reaction. People debate, criticize, support, and analyze the outcome with genuine passion. Yet their involvement often happens after the most decisive moments have already passed. The conversation feels lively and open, but the path itself was set earlier. Over time, this creates a strange illusion. People remain deeply involved in responding to events, while the creation of those events quietly happens somewhere else. And once you notice the difference between reacting to a decision and quietly designing it, the entire rhythm of public life begins to look different. For most people, distraction does not come from laziness or mindless entertainment. It comes from responsibility. Life quietly fills with obligations that demand attention every single day. Bills arrive on schedule. Rent or mortgage payments cannot be delayed. Work deadlines appear whether someone feels prepared for them or not. Families depend on stability, and that stability requires effort, planning, and constant attention. From the outside, this looks like the normal rhythm of adult life. And in many ways, it is. People wake up each morning with a list of things that simply must be done. There are tasks waiting at work, problems that need solving, and commitments that cannot easily be ignored. The pressure is not dramatic or theatrical. It is steady, practical, and unavoidable. Because of this, most attention naturally flows toward what feels immediate. If a deadline approaches tomorrow, it matters more than a policy discussion that might affect something years from now. If a child needs help with school or a customer needs an answer before the end of the day, those concerns rise instantly to the top of the mind. Day after day, attention becomes focused on solving the next urgent problem. Over time, this pattern quietly shapes what people are able to notice about the larger systems around them. When most energy goes into maintaining stability, earning income, protecting a career, caring for family, there is very little space left to step back and study the deeper structures that organize society. Institutions move slowly. Power shifts gradually. Those patterns require patience to observe. Some individuals, however, operate under different conditions. When immediate survival pressures are lighter, time opens up in a different way. It becomes possible to watch institutions carefully, to build relationships slowly, and to think in terms of years instead of days. This difference does not require a hidden plan to exist. It emerges naturally from how attention works. When most people are responsibly focused on managing their lives, the larger architecture of power can quietly evolve in the background, almost unnoticed by those keeping everything running. Most people learn to move quickly. Work environments reward speed, responsiveness, and the ability to handle multiple tasks at once. Messages arrive, problems appear, and solutions are expected immediately. The faster someone can respond, the more competent they seem. Over time, this creates a rhythm where attention is constantly pulled from one issue to the next, leaving very little room to pause. At first, this feels productive. Quick reactions solve small problems before they grow larger. Deadlines are met. Conversations keep moving forward. The day ends with the quiet satisfaction of having handled dozens of tasks. But there is a hidden trade-off in this constant motion. Strategy rarely grows inside urgency. Real strategic thinking requires a different kind of environment. It develops in moments where time slows down enough for patterns to become visible. Instead of reacting to the latest problem, the mind begins noticing connections between events that happen months or even years apart. Small changes in behavior, alliances, incentives, or institutions start forming a larger picture. That kind of awareness does not appear while someone is rushing between responsibilities. When a person spends most of their time reacting, their decisions are naturally shaped by whatever problem is directly in front of them. The next email, the next request, the next unexpected complication becomes the center of attention. Each response may be reasonable in isolation, but together they create a life that moves according to other people's timelines. Meanwhile, individuals who operate with more distance from immediate pressure experience time differently. They are able to observe events without responding to each one instantly. This creates space for reflection. Instead of solving one problem after another, they look for leverage points where a single decision can shape many outcomes at once. That difference slowly creates influence. When someone controls the pace of their attention, they are not forced into every urgent moment. They can choose when to act and when to wait. And over time, those quiet moments of stillness begin shaping the direction of events more than constant motion ever could. Power rarely spreads evenly across a society. Instead, it tends to gather in certain places, almost the way water flows toward lower ground or how wealth accumulates around strong markets. This pattern is not always the result of deliberate manipulation. Much of the time, it emerges from the simple mechanics of organization. When people coordinate effectively, they gain advantages that individuals acting alone cannot easily match. A small group that communicates well, shares information, and moves with a clear purpose can make decisions faster and implement them more efficiently than a large population acting independently. Over time, this coordination becomes a form of strength. Institutions play an important role in this process. Governments, corporations, financial systems, and political organizations are built specifically to organize people around shared goals. Once these structures exist, they naturally begin attracting resources. Information flows toward them because decisions are made there. Money moves toward them because opportunities are created there. Talented individuals often seek positions inside them because influence can be exercised from within. As this concentration begins, it quietly reinforces itself. When a group already holds influence, it can shape the rules that determine how influence is distributed in the future. Access to decision-makers becomes limited. Procedures are established that favor those already inside the system. Narratives emerge that explain why the existing structure is necessary or inevitable. None of this requires constant control. The structure itself begins guiding outcomes. Meanwhile, most people continue living within the framework that already exists. They work inside institutions, follow established rules, and pursue opportunities defined by the current system. Their actions keep the system functioning, but they rarely change its deeper architecture. The entire process unfolds slowly. There are rarely dramatic moments where power suddenly moves from one place to another. Instead, it accumulates gradually across years and decades. By the time the pattern becomes obvious, it often feels as though it has always been that way. If you watch closely in any large organization, a curious difference begins to appear between the people carrying out the daily work and the people shaping its direction. The contrast is not always obvious at first, but once you notice it, it becomes difficult to ignore. Many workers move through the day at a fast pace. Their schedules are tightly packed with tasks, messages, and small decisions that demand immediate attention. Problems arrive unexpectedly, and solutions are needed quickly. Their energy goes into keeping systems running smoothly, making sure nothing breaks or falls behind. But individuals who hold significant authority often move through the same environment with a very different rhythm. They rarely appear rushed. Their calendars may contain fewer visible tasks, yet their conversations tend to revolve around broader questions. Instead of reacting to each small issue, they spend time discussing patterns, future possibilities, or relationships between different parts of the organization. Meetings are not always about solving the next urgent problem. Sometimes they exist simply to observe where things might be heading. This does not mean their work is easier or less demanding. In many cases, it requires a deeper level of responsibility. But the nature of their attention is different. Rather than managing every immediate detail, they focus on shaping the conditions that influence many details at once. While others navigate the environment as it exists, they quietly influence how that environment evolves. Over time, this difference becomes powerful. The people moving fastest through the system often keep it functioning. But the ones who step back and study it carefully are more likely to guide where it eventually goes. Many decisions that shock the public appear as if they happened overnight. Headlines scream about sudden mergers, unexpected policy shifts, or surprising corporate announcements. The immediate reaction is often confusion. People wonder how such a significant change could occur so quickly, as if the world shifted in a single day. The reality is quite different. These outcomes are rarely spontaneous. Behind the scenes, months or even years of preparation have quietly unfolded. Negotiations are conducted in private rooms, where only a handful of people fully understand the stakes. Research is collected and analyzed, possibilities weighed, and risks calculated long before any public announcement. Alliances are carefully nurtured. Relationships are built gradually, trust is established, and positions are tested in ways that rarely leave visible traces. By the time a decision reaches the public, the essential direction has already been set. The announcement is simply the final point in a long, deliberate process. Recognizing this hidden timeline transforms how events are perceived. What once seemed sudden now reveals itself as the end result of slow, strategic movement. News, decisions, and changes are no longer isolated shocks but markers along a path shaped long before most people notice. The patterns of preparation become visible to those willing to look beyond the surface. Once a structure of influence is established, it rarely needs constant hands-on control to remain effective. Its rules, incentives, and expectations begin guiding behavior almost automatically. People inside the system quickly learn what is rewarded, what is ignored, and what is discouraged, adjusting their actions accordingly without anyone having to enforce it personally. Institutions play a central role in this self-sustaining process. They codify norms, create procedures, and provide frameworks that subtly shape decisions. Compliance often feels natural rather than forced. Cultural expectations reinforce these patterns, teaching new participants how to navigate the system without explicit instruction. Over time, this creates a quiet stability that appears seamless to observers. New members entering the structure adapt to its logic almost immediately. They follow established paths, adopt common practices, and contribute to ongoing processes without realizing they are sustaining the very power dynamics that existed before them. Each action reinforces the framework, whether consciously intended or not. In this way, concentration of power becomes remarkably durable. Generations can pass, new faces take the stage, yet the underlying system continues operating. Its persistence relies less on active intervention and more on the predictable patterns of human behavior and institutional momentum. The structure maintains itself, quietly shaping the environment that everyone within it navigates. Machiavelli's insight is often misunderstood as a lesson in cynicism, as if the world is designed to punish the many for the benefit of the few. In truth, it is neither a moral judgment nor a call for despair. It is simply an invitation to see human systems clearly, without illusions. Power naturally gathers where strategy, patience, and careful planning exist. Those who step back and observe patterns quietly accumulate influence over time, while constant activity rarely produces lasting authority. Recognizing this does not make society unfair, it makes it understandable. Once the illusion of spontaneity fades, events begin to fall into place. Decisions that once seemed mysterious reveal their logic, and the rhythm of power becomes visible to those willing to look closely. Awareness, not anger, is the key. As the day ends and the noise of motion continues around us, the world appears the same at first glance. Streets are still busy, offices still humming, messages still arriving without pause. Yet now, something has shifted in perspective. The constant motion no longer feels like the whole story. Invisible structures, once hidden behind the blur of activity, begin to reveal themselves. Decisions that seemed sudden now have a discernible path. Patterns emerge where chaos once seemed complete. Power, rather than random or unpredictable, appears to follow a quiet logic. In this calm observation, the viewer comes to understand Machiavelli's centuries-old insight: influence rarely belongs to those who rush through life. It belongs to those who watch carefully, patiently, and attentively, noticing what others cannot while everyone else is busy moving.